At this very moment, you exist as multiple versions of yourself. You are infinite possibilities, all living simultaneously, waiting for your conscious choice to bring one into physical reality. This isn't mystical thinking or hopeful philosophy. This is quantum superposition, the scientific principle showing that particles exist in multiple states at once until observed, when they collapse into one definite state. You operate by these same laws. You are quantum mechanics expressed in human form. Each morning when you wake, you hold the potential to become anyone: the confident leader, the creative genius, the peaceful master, the abundant creator. All these versions of you exist right now in what quantum physics calls the field of potential. But here's what happens. Within seconds of waking, you automatically become the same version of yourself, the familiar identity, the comfortable you, the one carrying yesterday's problems and expecting tomorrow's struggles. Think about this discovery. When quantum scientists first found particles existing in multiple places simultaneously, they couldn't believe it. How could something be in two states at once? How could an electron be both wave and particle? Yet experiment after experiment proved this truth. And here's what changes everything. You follow these same universal laws. You exist as pure potential until the moment of self-awareness collapses you into one identity. The version reading this represents just one possibility that became real, but other versions are waiting. The one already living your dreams. The one who let go of what doesn't serve them. The one who said yes when your current self said no. They all exist. They all remain available. They all express who you truly are. That heavy feeling you've been carrying. That knowing that something needs to change, yet the way forward seems unclear. That's not confusion. That's awakening. It's your consciousness recognizing the repetitive cycle of becoming the same self day after day, like a song stuck on repeat. You sense these other potentials calling. You feel them in quiet moments, in your dreams, in those precious seconds between sleep and waking when your programmed identity temporarily dissolves. But then the pattern starts. Your eyes open, your feet hit the floor, and immediately you default to the familiar version. Same thought patterns, same emotional responses, same behaviors. This collapse happens without your awareness. It occurs so quickly, so automatically, that you never realize other options existed. Your body remembers how to be yesterday's version of you before your conscious mind even engages. If this truth resonates deep within you, hit that like button right now. This intentional action creates energetic connection between your consciousness and this frequency of transformation, accelerating your collapse into your highest version. Every single morning, you experience quantum collapse without knowing it. In those first moments of awareness, before memory returns, before identity reassembles, before your story restarts, you exist as pure potential. You embody the quantum field itself, limitless and undefined. Then something triggers. A thought appears. Tasks demand attention. A feeling surfaces, that familiar weight or worry. In that instant, you shift from infinite possibility to specific identity. Quantum physicists call this wave function collapse. When a quantum system gets observed, it shifts from all possibilities to one reality. And you, incredible being, represent the most sophisticated quantum system in existence. Your consciousness acts as both observer and observed. You witness yourself collapsing into form each new day. If this message speaks to your quantum essence, type "I choose" in the comments below. Let these words become your announcement to the universe that you're shifting from unconscious to conscious selection of which version of yourself appears. This process involves more than just thinking. Your entire physical system participates in this collapse. Your cells remember yesterday's patterns. Your nervous system has stored your emotional habits. Your heart has memorized its familiar rhythm of fear or excitement. Before your first conscious thought emerges, your body has already chosen which version of you to become. It selects the familiar pattern, the comfortable identity, even when that pattern creates suffering. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research uncovered something extraordinary about this process. By age 35, roughly 95% of who you think you are consists of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, viewpoints, beliefs, and perceptions. You're not truly living. You're running a program. You're not consciously choosing. You're automatically repeating. Every morning presents the opportunity to become any version of yourself. Yet you default to yesterday's identity because that's what your biological system knows. Here's what's remarkable. The moment before collapse, that state of superposition where all possibilities exist together, that's where real power lives. That's where choice happens. That's where transformation becomes available. Yet most people rush through this moment so quickly they never notice it. We snap into our familiar identity before realizing options existed. Scientists studying quantum mechanics discovered that observation doesn't just reveal reality, it creates reality. Observer and observed aren't separate things. They form one unified system generating each other. When you observe yourself through your history's filter, you collapse into that history. When you observe yourself through limitation's lens, you collapse into that limitation. But what happens when your observation changes? Your body doesn't just remember your past. It actively recreates it. Every cell operates as a quantum processor, storing not just biological data, but energetic patterns, emotional frequencies, and identity programming. After years of experiencing yourself consistently, feeling familiar emotions, thinking repetitive thoughts, your cellular structure becomes addicted to specific biochemical signals. Fear produces certain hormones. Anxiety triggers specific neurotransmitters. Doubt creates particular chemical cascades. And your cells, these incredible, intelligent quantum processors, become dependent on these chemical messengers. They literally need the biochemistry of your familiar identity. So when your conscious mind says, "I want change," your trillion cells respond, "Give us what we know." This explains why transformation feels hard. You're not just changing thoughts. You're asking your entire biological system to go through withdrawal from its familiar chemical environment. You're requesting every cell release its addiction to being who you've always been. Like any withdrawal, discomfort emerges. Your body sends distress signals, anxiety, even panic. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're creating something new. Here's something revolutionary rarely discussed. When quantum systems change, they experience what physicists call quantum tunneling, the ability for particles to pass through energy barriers that classical physics says are impossible to cross. Your consciousness has the same ability. When transformation seems impossible from where you stand, quantum tunneling lets you jump to a new state without walking the entire path between states. This is why transformation can happen instantly rather than gradually, defying linear logic about change. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research shows something incredible. Your cells don't just respond to thoughts, they become your thoughts. When you think the same thoughts repeatedly, your cells restructure to make thinking that thought easier. Neural pathways strengthen. Synaptic connections multiply. Your brain physically rebuilds itself to make familiar patterns more efficient. You become a biological monument to your habitual self. But here's where quantum superposition becomes your greatest asset. Just as particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, your cells can exist in multiple emotional states, multiple biochemical environments, multiple realities at once. They aren't permanently locked into one pattern. They can learn new expressions. They can respond to new frequencies. They can become addicted to joy as easily as they became addicted to fear. The scientific term is neuroplasticity, but it's actually quantum mechanics operating in your biology. Each time you choose a different thought, feel a different emotion, or take a different action, you're collapsing into a slightly different version of yourself. Do this once, and your old pattern snaps back like a rubber band. But practice this consistently with intention and awareness, and something extraordinary happens. Your cells start expecting the new pattern. They start craving the new biochemistry. They start rebuilding themselves around your emerging identity. Beyond neuroplasticity, we now understand quantum coherence occurring in biological systems where particles within your cells maintain synchronized wave functions. When you consistently hold a new state of being, your entire body achieves quantum coherence around this new state, making it increasingly easier to maintain as your body's cellular oscillators synchronize to the new frequency. This is why transformation has a tipping point where suddenly it becomes easier to be the new you than to return to old patterns. Quantum physics has proven what ancient wisdom knew for millennia. One reality doesn't exist. Infinite realities exist simultaneously, all coexisting, all equally real, all awaiting consciousness to collapse them into experience. This isn't philosophical theory. This is scientific fact demonstrated in laboratories globally. In the famous double-slit experiment, scientists shot electrons at a barrier with two openings. When unobserved, electrons behaved as waves, passing through both openings simultaneously, creating an interference pattern. But when observed, they collapsed into particles, choosing one opening or the other. The implications are staggering. Reality exists as potential until consciousness chooses which version becomes real. You live this experiment every moment. Your life exists as waves of possibility until observation collapses it into specific experience. Your current relationship represents one collapse potential. Your work represents another. Your health, your abundance or lack, your joy or suffering, all represent collapse potentials from an infinite field of possibility. If you sense this shift beginning, type "I am possibilities" below. Let these words anchor your consciousness in superposition, in that space of infinite potential before collapse. Your nervous system has perfected collapsing you into your familiar identity. It happens so fast, so automatically, that you never noticed choice existed. Something happens. A bill arrives. Someone criticizes you. An opportunity appears. And before you can think, you've already collapsed into predictable response. Your body automatically produces specific chemicals, tensions specific muscles, triggers specific thoughts. This automatic collapse creates limitation. Your circumstances don't trap you. Your nervous system's addiction to collapsing into the same patterns traps you. But the same nervous system automatically collapsing you into limitation can learn to automatically collapse you into expansion. The same body addicted to familiar chemicals can learn to crave elevated emotions. The same neural pathways firing predictably can rewire to fire in empowering new patterns. This is where real transformation starts, not through force or pressure, but through awareness of the moment before collapse. When familiar emotions rise, can you pause? When habitual thoughts appear, can you question them? When your body prepares its programmed reaction, can you choose differently? If you're ready to escape the gravity of your old self, hit subscribe now. This creates a quantum bridge between your consciousness and this transformational frequency, ensuring you continue receiving the energetic transmissions supporting your evolution. When you stop collapsing into your old identity, your physical system goes into shock. It's been producing the same biochemical formula for years, maybe decades. Your body knows this recipe perfectly. It's become your biochemical signature, as unique as your DNA. Now suddenly you're asking your body to stop production. You're refusing to supply the stress chemicals it needs. You're withholding the familiar emotional states it craves. Like someone quitting caffeine or sugar, your body protests. You might feel anxiety without reason, irritability without cause. Your body literally experiences withdrawal from your old identity. This is why many quit transformation. They think these uncomfortable feelings mean something's wrong, that they should return to familiar patterns. But these sensations actually prove transformation is working. Your old identity is dissolving at the cellular level. The beautiful part? As your body releases its addiction to old chemical patterns, it becomes receptive to new ones. Gratitude produces different hormones than fear. Joy creates different neurotransmitters than anxiety. Love floods your system with healing chemicals. And your cells, these brilliant quantum processors, can learn to crave these new chemicals just as strongly as they crave the old ones. The transition typically takes 21 to 30 days. That's how long your body needs to break its chemical addiction to familiar emotional states. During this phase, you exist in quantum flux. You're neither your old self nor your new self. You're in superposition, existing as pure potential, ready to collapse into something unprecedented. In quantum mechanics, one principle shook science to its core: the observer effect. Simply put, observation changes what's being observed. An electron doesn't have a definite location until someone observes it. A particle doesn't choose its state until consciousness collapses it into reality. You operate as both observer and observed in your own life. How you observe yourself determines which version of you becomes real. If you're ready to observe differently, declare new observer in the comments. This signals your quantum field that you're shifting from unconscious to conscious observation. Your old identity doesn't need destroying. It just needs you to stop observing it. When you stop collapsing into that identity, it naturally dissolves back into the quantum field, becoming just one possibility rather than your only reality. You don't need to fight your old patterns. You simply need to stop choosing them, stop observing them, stop collapsing into them, and start observing, choosing, collapsing into something else. Your nervous system has perfected collapsing you into your familiar identity. It happens so fast, so automatically that you never realize choice exists. Something happens, a bill arrives, someone criticizes you, an opportunity appears. And before you can think, you've already collapsed into your predictable response. Your body automatically produces specific chemicals, tenses certain muscles, triggers certain thought patterns. This automatic collapse creates your prison. Your circumstances don't trap you. Your nervous system's addiction to collapsing into the same patterns traps you. You've practiced being yourself so thoroughly that your body runs the program without conscious input. You've mastered being who you've always been. But mastery can be redirected. The same nervous system automatically collapsing you into limitation can learn to automatically collapse you into expansion. The same body addicted to familiar chemicals can learn to crave elevated emotional states. The same neural pathways firing predictably can rewire to fire in empowering new patterns. This is where real transformation starts, not through force or pressure, but through awareness of the moment before collapse. When familiar emotions rise, can you pause? When habitual thoughts appear, can you question them? When your body prepares its programmed reaction, can you choose differently? Think of it this way. Your old identity operates like a gravitational field with its own pulling force. It draws everything into its orbit. Every thought, every feeling, every experience gets sucked into the gravity of who you've always been. But consciousness is stronger than gravity. Awareness has more power than automation. And choice, conscious choice, can escape even the strongest pull of old patterns. If you're ready to escape the gravity of your old self, subscribe now. This creates a quantum bridge between your consciousness and this transformational frequency, ensuring you keep receiving the energetic transmissions supporting your evolution. When you stop collapsing into your old identity, your physical system goes into shock. It's been producing the same biochemical recipe for years, maybe decades. Cortisol when you wake up thinking about responsibilities. Adrenaline midday when checking your bank account. Worry hormones before bed. Your body knows this formula perfectly. It's become your biochemical fingerprint, as unique as your DNA. Now suddenly you're asking your body to stop production. You're refusing to supply the stress chemicals it depends on. You're withholding the familiar emotional states it craves. And like someone quitting caffeine or sugar, your body protests. You might feel anxiety without reason, irritability without cause. Your body literally goes through withdrawal from your old identity. This is why many people quit transformation. They think these uncomfortable feelings mean something's wrong, that they should return to familiar patterns. But these sensations actually prove transformation is working. Your old identity is dissolving at the cellular level, and dissolution, even of what doesn't serve you, creates temporary discomfort. But here's the beautiful part. As your body releases its addiction to old chemical patterns, it becomes receptive to new ones. Gratitude produces different hormones than fear. Joy creates different neurotransmitters than anxiety. Love floods your system with healing chemicals. And your cells, these brilliant quantum processors, can learn to crave these new chemicals just as intensely as they crave the old ones. Most people never learn about what quantum biologists call cellular memory transmutation. This phenomenon shows how your cells can actually speed up their adaptation to new biochemical states when you provide conscious intention and energy. By focusing on the cells struggling with transition and consciously telling them they're safe in this new state, you can significantly reduce the withdrawal period and help your body adapt faster to your new frequency.
The transition typically takes 21 to 30 days. That's how long your body needs to break its chemical addiction to familiar emotional states. During this phase, you exist in quantum flux. You're neither your old self nor your new self. You're in superposition, existing as pure potential, ready to collapse into something unprecedented. This is sacred time. This is when you're most powerful, most creative, most capable of authentic transformation. Don't rush through it. Don't try to make it comfortable. Allow yourself to exist in the uncertainty, in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. This is where miracles happen. This is where you discover you were never as solid as you thought. You were always fluid, always changeable, always capable of collapsing into something magnificent.
In quantum mechanics, one principle shook science to its core: the observer effect. Simply put, observation changes what's being observed. An electron doesn't have a definite location until someone observes it. A particle doesn't choose its state until consciousness collapses it into reality. Observer and observed aren't separate things. They form one unified system, creating each other every moment. You function as both observer and observed in your own life. How you observe yourself determines which version of you collapses into reality. When you observe yourself through the filter of your wounds, you collapse into wounded reality. When you observe yourself through the lens of your power, you collapse into empowered reality. The observer part is the creator part of your being. But here's what most people miss. You're not observing objective reality. You're observing possibility and collapsing it into experience through the quality of your observation. Your consciousness isn't passive. It's the active force, choosing which potential becomes actual. Each time you observe your life, you're not just seeing what exists. You're creating what exists through the act of seeing. This explains why two people can experience the same event completely differently. They're not just interpreting differently. They're literally collapsing into different realities through their observation. One person sees opportunity, another sees obstacle. One perceives blessing, another perceives burden. And both are right because both create their experience through observation. One quantum principle rarely discussed is entanglement harvesting, the ability to create quantum connections between previously unconnected particles. In consciousness terms, this means you can literally create new connections between aspects of your experience that seemed unrelated. When you consciously choose to see synchronicities and meaningful connections in your life, you're engaging in entanglement harvesting, creating new quantum relationships between events that strengthen your new reality. This is why people consciously creating new realities often report dramatic increases in meaningful coincidences. They're actually creating these entanglements through observation. The quality of your consciousness determines the quality of your collapse. If consciousness is clouded by past conditioning, you'll collapse reality through that filter. If consciousness is clear and present, you'll collapse reality from pure potential. This isn't positive thinking. This is quantum mechanics. Your consciousness is the lens through which infinite possibility becomes singular experience. So ask yourself, how are you observing yourself right now? Through which lens are you collapsing potential into reality? Are you observing yourself as someone struggling or someone evolving? Are you seeing yourself as stuck or in transition? Are you collapsing into the story of who you've been or into the possibility of who you're becoming? If you're ready to observe differently, type New Observer in the comments. This simple act signals your quantum field that you're shifting from unconscious to conscious observation. Your old identity doesn't need destroying. It just needs you to stop observing it. When you stop observing yourself as that person, when you stop collapsing into that identity, it naturally dissolves back into the quantum field, becoming just one possibility rather than your only reality. This is the transformation secret nobody talks about. You don't need to fight your old patterns. You don't need to overcome or defeat them. You simply need to stop choosing them, stop observing them, stop collapsing into them, and start observing, choosing, collapsing into something else. But what is this something else? It's not a fantasy version requiring construction from nothing. It's a version of you already existing in the quantum field. Remember, in superposition, all possibilities exist simultaneously. The confident you, the abundant you, the peaceful you, the creative you, they all exist. They're all accessible. They're all waiting for your observation to make them real. The process is simpler than your mind thinks. Close your eyes and sense a different version of yourself. Not the one reading this with all your current challenges and patterns, but the one who's already transformed. Feel their energy, feel their peace, feel their certainty. They don't exist in the future. They exist in a parallel now, a different collapse of the same quantum potential. When you open your eyes, you have a choice. You can collapse back into your familiar identity or maintain the frequency of this new version. You can observe yourself as who you've always been or as who you're becoming. The quantum field responds equally to either choice, manifesting with mathematical precision whatever you select. This explains why pretending doesn't work. You can't fake a frequency. You can't fool the quantum field. You must actually shift your observation, actually transform your consciousness, actually collapse into a different state. It's not about what you say or visualize. It's about which version of yourself you're observing into existence right now. Each version of you vibrates at a unique frequency. The worried you has one frequency. The confident you has another. The scarcity-based you vibrates differently than the abundance-based you. These aren't metaphors. These are measurable electromagnetic signatures your body broadcasts into the quantum field. If these insights are awakening something deep within you, I want to share a resource that takes this understanding to entirely new depths. Scientists have measured that your heart creates an electromagnetic field reaching several feet beyond your physical form. This field transmits data about your emotional state, your identity, your consciousness. When you collapse into fear, your field transmits fear. When you collapse into love, your field transmits love. And the quantum field responds to these transmissions by arranging reality to match them. This is why you instantly feel someone's energy when entering a room. Their electromagnetic field connects with yours, sharing information at the quantum level. You're not just sensing their mood. You're experiencing their collapsed reality, the version of themselves they've chosen to observe into being. Your frequency acts as your universal signature. It declares who you are before you speak, before you act, before you think. And the universe, operating through resonance and attraction, responds by delivering experiences matching your frequency. You don't attract what you desire, you attract what you are. More accurately, you attract what you're observing yourself to be. Shifting your frequency isn't about forcing positive emotions. It's about authentically collapsing into a different version of yourself. When you truly observe yourself as abundant, your frequency becomes abundance. When you genuinely collapse into confidence, your electromagnetic field broadcasts confidence. One rarely discussed aspect of quantum field theory is vacuum fluctuation, the principle that even in empty space, particles and antiparticles constantly appear and disappear. Similarly, in your life, new possibilities continuously emerge from the quantum vacuum, even in spaces that seem empty of opportunity. When you hold a new frequency state consistently, you become capable of capturing these vacuum fluctuations, transforming quantum possibilities into physical realities in ways that would have seemed impossible from your previous perspective. The shift must be genuine, must be embodied, must be experienced at the cellular level. This explains why affirmations often fail. You can repeat, "I am abundant," endlessly, but if you're observing yourself through scarcity, if you're collapsing into lack, your frequency stays unchanged. The quantum field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your state. It doesn't react to what you say. It reacts to what you are. If you feel your frequency shifting, type "frequency shift" below. Let these words ripple through the quantum field, broadcasting your new electromagnetic signature to the universe. Now let's explore how to consciously choose which version of yourself to collapse into. This isn't a one-time event. It's a practice, a skill, an art form mastered through consistent application. Every consciousness expert, from ancient mystics to modern quantum physicists, has understood this principle. Reality manifests in the moment of collapse, and you can learn to direct that collapse. Start with morning awakening, that precious moment when consciousness first returns. Before opening your eyes, before remembering your identity, pause. Feel yourself existing in superposition, in pure potential. You could be anyone. You could feel anything. All possibilities exist in this moment. Now consciously choose, not from your head, but from your entire being. Which version of yourself will you collapse into today? Feel it in your body. The confident version holds different posture, even while lying down. The peaceful version breathes differently. The abundant version carries different energy in their cells. Don't think it. Feel it. Then with intention and awareness, collapse into that version. Open your eyes as that person. Rise from bed as that identity. Start your day from that frequency. Throughout your day, countless practice opportunities appear. Every interaction, every challenge, every choice moment offers a chance to consciously collapse into your highest potential. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Which version of you responds? You receive unexpected news. Which identity do you collapse into? You face a familiar trigger. Who do you choose to become? The secret lies in catching yourself in the moment before automatic collapse. That split second where multiple paths exist. That's your power point. That's where you reclaim control over your reality. It takes practice. Initially, you'll miss many opportunities, collapsing into old patterns before realizing choice existed. But with practice, you'll develop speed in catching yourself, skill in pausing, mastery in choosing. One technique quantum therapists call pattern interruption can dramatically accelerate this process. Create a simple physical gesture, touching your heart center, snapping your fingers, or taking a specific breath pattern that you use only when consciously choosing a new state. This creates a physical anchor that helps interrupt automatic collapse patterns. When you feel yourself starting to collapse into old patterns, immediately use this gesture to create a pattern interruption that gives you space to choose differently. Over time, this gesture becomes a powerful state-shifting tool. This practice changes everything. It transforms you from circumstance victim to conscious creator. It shifts you from being pattern-controlled to experience authoring. It elevates you from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. And as mastery develops, something miraculous occurs. Your default state begins shifting. The new version becomes easier to collapse into than the old one. Hit subscribe to anchor yourself in this new way of being. Each notification becomes a quantum reminder, a gentle collapse into your highest timeline, a vibrational alignment with your unlimited potential. Let's address something crucial. Your old self won't surrender easily. It will fight for survival. Not because it's bad or wrong, but because it genuinely believes it's protecting you. That identity formed during painful moments, created as armor against a harmful world. It believes it's keeping you safe. So when you begin collapsing into new versions, your old identity will resurface, usually when you're tired, stressed, or triggered. Suddenly you'll find yourself thinking old thoughts, feeling familiar emotions, collapsing into worn patterns. And in that moment, you might think you failed. You might believe nothing's changed, that you're back where you started. But that's false. Each time you consciously choose a different collapse, even briefly, you weaken your old identity's gravitational pull. You're showing your nervous system alternatives exist. You're teaching your cells they can survive without familiar chemicals. You're proving to your consciousness it has the power to choose. When old patterns return, and they will, meet them with compassion, not resistance. Thank them for trying to protect you. Acknowledge their concern, then gently but firmly choose again. Collapse into something different. Not through force, but through love. Not through battle, but through choosing. Remember, what you resist persists, but what you stop observing dissolves. Think of your old self as a child fearing abandonment. If you fight it, it clings tighter. If you shame it, it intensifies. But if you love it, acknowledge it, then gently redirect attention to who you're becoming, it gradually releases. It realizes it's safe to evolve. It understands transformation isn't death, it's growth. Some days challenge more than others. Some moments, the gravitational pull of old identity feels overwhelming. Your body demands its familiar chemicals. Your mind insists on its familiar thoughts. Your emotions require their familiar patterns. In these moments, remember, this is temporary. This is your quantum system reorganizing itself. This is chaos before new order. An important quantum field healing principle is what scientists call phase transition, the moment when a system suddenly shifts from one state to another, like water becoming steam. The hardest moments in your transformation often indicate you're approaching a phase transition. Your system is gathering energy for a quantum leap. The greatest resistance happens right before breakthrough. And understanding this helps you persist through challenging transitions, recognizing them as signs of imminent breakthrough rather than failure evidence. If you're experiencing this quantum reorganization, type "I release" below. These two words signal your willingness to let old patterns dissolve back into infinite possibility. When you collapse into a new version of yourself, you don't just change your personal reality. You create ripples in the quantum field affecting everything and everyone around you. This isn't metaphorical, it's physics. Your electromagnetic field interacts with other fields, exchanging information, influencing probabilities, shifting possibilities. People will notice something different about you, even if they can't explain what's changed. Some will be attracted to your new frequency, drawn through resonance to your elevated version. Others might distance themselves, uncomfortable with the mirror your transformation holds to their own stagnation. Both responses are perfect. Both represent the quantum reorganization happening around your shift. I'm curious, what shifts have you already noticed in your relationships as you've begun changing your energy? Share in the comments how people are responding differently to you as you step into new versions of yourself. Your transformation gives others permission to transform. When you collapse into a higher version of yourself, you show others what's possible. You become living proof that identity isn't fixed, that reality isn't solid, that change isn't just possible, but natural. You become a walking invitation for others to explore their own quantum potential. But the ripples reach beyond your immediate circle. The quantum field operates non-locally, meaning changes in one part affect the whole. When you elevate your frequency, you contribute to elevating collective consciousness. When you collapse into love instead of fear, you make it easier for others to do the same. When you choose peace over anxiety, you add peace to the global field. Quantum physicists have recently begun studying morphic resonance fields, information fields that allow similar systems to communicate across space and time. When you stabilize a new frequency state that few humans have consistently accessed before, you literally create new morphic resonance pathways that make it easier for others to access similar states in the future. Your personal transformation actually changes what's possible for all humanity, creating new templates in the collective field that others can more easily access and embody. This explains why your transformation matters. It's not just about creating a better life for yourself, though that's important. It's about contributing to consciousness evolution itself. Each time you consciously collapse into a higher version of yourself, you're participating in the quantum evolution of our species. You're not just changing your story, you're changing the story. Don't underestimate individual transformation's power. History shows countless individuals whose personal evolution sparked collective change. They didn't try to change the world. They changed themselves, and the world reorganized around their new frequency. You have that same power. You embody that same possibility. Here's the ultimate revelation. You don't need to collapse into just one identity and stay there forever. You can learn to live in conscious superposition, fluidly moving between different versions of yourself as circumstances require. This isn't multiple personality disorder. This is quantum mastery. Sometimes circumstances call for the warrior version of yourself, sometimes the healer, sometimes the creator, the leader, the mystic, the child. All these versions exist within you simultaneously. The key is learning to consciously select which one to collapse into based on what the moment needs, rather than automatically defaulting to your habitual identity. This represents true freedom, not being locked into one way of being, but accessing your full spectrum of possibility. Not being controlled by unconscious patterns, but consciously choosing which aspect of your infinite nature to express. This is living as a quantum being rather than a fixed personality. Masters of consciousness throughout history understood this principle. They could be fierce when fierceness served, gentle when gentleness was needed. They could collapse into whatever version of themselves would serve the highest good in any moment. They weren't inconsistent. They were quantum. They weren't unstable. They were fluid. You have this same capacity. You can learn to sense which version of you serves the moment and collapse into it consciously. Parent, partner, professional, mystic, athlete, artist. All these and more exist within your quantum potential. The question isn't which one is the real you. They're all real. The question is, which one serves this moment? Advanced quantum field navigators understand quantum superfluid state, a condition where a substance loses all internal friction and gains extraordinary properties. Similarly, when you develop true quantum fluidity in your identity, you gain extraordinary capacities to flow between states without the friction of identity crisis or cognitive dissonance. You become simultaneously stable in your core essence while completely fluid in your expression, the paradoxical state of centered changeability that characterizes masterful consciousness. If you're ready to live as your quantum self, type, "I am quantum" below. Let this affirmation collapse you into the version of yourself that flows freely between all possibilities. Releasing isn't just a spiritual concept, it's a quantum necessity. In superposition, all possibilities exist simultaneously, but for one to manifest, others must be released. You cannot collapse into your new self while clinging to the old. You cannot embody your future while gripping your past. The act of letting go is the act of choosing which possibility becomes reality. Think of it this way. Your consciousness works like a quantum processor that can only run one program at a time. While running the program of your old identity, you cannot run the program of your new one. Letting go closes the old program, frees your processing power, creates space for something new to run. But releasing at the quantum level differs from intellectually deciding to let go. It requires complete release at every level: mental, emotional, physical, and energetic. Your thoughts must release. Your emotions must release. Your cells must release. Your electromagnetic field must release. This explains why it feels so challenging. You're not just changing your mind. You're changing your entire quantum state. The beautiful paradox is that the moment you truly release, the moment you stop observing your old self into existence, it immediately begins dissolving. Not gradually, not incrementally, but instantaneously. In quantum mechanics, collapse happens outside of time. The wave becomes particle instantly. And the reverse is equally true. The moment you stop collapsing into a particular identity, it returns to being just potential, just one of infinite possibilities. This explains why holding on takes such energy. You're literally using your life force, your creative power, your quantum energy to maintain collapse into an identity that no longer serves your highest expression. Every moment maintaining your old self requires energy. Every second observing it into existence drains your vitality. Letting go isn't just liberating, it's energizing. It frees all the power you've been using to maintain your limitation. So what are you ready to release? Not tomorrow, not after everything's perfect, but right now in this moment. What identity are you ready to stop observing into existence? What version of yourself are you ready to let dissolve back into the quantum field? The moment you truly decide, the moment you genuinely release, you'll feel a shift, a lightness, a spaciousness, a sense of possibility. That's the feeling of superposition. That's the experience of existing as pure potential, ready to collapse into something magnificent. Start small. Begin with your next breath. Can you collapse into a version of yourself that breathes more deeply, more peacefully? Can you observe yourself as someone centered, grounded, confident, not forever, just for this breath, then the next, then the next? Build your quantum capacity gradually, learning to direct your collapse consciously rather than unconsciously. The old you is already fading, not because you're fighting it, but because you're no longer choosing it. With each conscious collapse into your higher expression, the old patterns weaken. The familiar biochemicals lose their grip. The automatic responses lose their control. And in their place, something new emerges. Not something requiring construction or achievement, but something you simply allow by observing it into existence. You are more powerful than you've been taught. You are more fluid than you've believed. You are more quantum than you've imagined. And now that you recognize this, now that you feel this truth resonating in your cells, you can never fully return. The old you cannot survive this awareness because you've seen through the illusion of its solidity. The universe is already responding to your shift. Reality is reorganizing around your new frequency. Possibilities previously invisible are becoming visible. Doors previously closed are beginning to open. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you're finally collapsing into the version of yourself that aligns with the life you've been seeking. Take a breath. Feel the shift. You're not the same person who began reading these words. You've already begun collapsing differently. The quantum shift has already started. Your old self cannot survive what you now understand. And that's not loss, it's liberation. That's not ending, it's beginning. Hit that like button to seal this transformation. This action sends ripples through the quantum field, strengthening your new frequency and attracting the reality that matches your elevated state. Now move forward understanding that transformation isn't something to pursue or earn. It's something you select moment by moment, collapse by collapse. Your new reality isn't coming, it's here, waiting for your observation to bring it into existence. Share this quantum activation with those ready for transformation. By transmitting this frequency, you become a catalyst for collective evolution, creating a quantum network of souls choosing to collapse into their highest possibilities together. Comment below with, "I choose quantum awareness." This declaration marks your conscious interruption of unconscious patterns, signaling to the field your intentional shift into higher perception. We've all been taught to see ourselves as fixed, unchangeable beings, products of our past, victims of our circumstances, prisoners of our programming. But quantum reality reveals this as the greatest illusion. You are not a static being, but a dynamic process of continuous creation. choosing which version of yourself to observe into existence with every thought, every feeling, every moment of awareness. The fundamental truth remains. You were never meant to be just one thing. The universe itself exists as probability waves of infinite possibility until consciousness collapses it into form. You are that same universe in human expression, that same quantum field individuated into unique perspective. Your true power lies not in forcing change, but in remembering your nature as the observer who chooses which possibility becomes your reality. Drop one word in the comments that captures the energy you're now choosing to embody. Let this word become your energetic signature to the quantum field, a declaration of the frequency you're now broadcasting to the universe. Remember, quantum transformation isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about allowing yourself to be everything you already are in potential. It's about recognizing that the version of you watching this is just one collapsed possibility from an infinite field of who you could be. Consider rewatching this video each morning for the next 7 days. Let these quantum principles recalibrate your frequency at the start of each day, setting a powerful intention for conscious choice. Subscribe not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent with this elevated frequency. The more of us who embody this quantum awareness, the more our collective reality will reflect this truth. Together, we're not just changing our individual lives. We're shifting the probability waves of human consciousness itself. This is your moment of quantum choice. Which version of yourself will you collapse into existence today? If these concepts resonate with you, explore our next videos.